Okay, and our last topic for this particular unit is a process of doing long division, but it's going to be doing long division using basically a shortcut, and it's called synthetic division. Synthetic division. And really, it's just, again, it's doing long division. It's just making the process a little bit easier and a little shorter. And here's the thing. This is only going to work as long as your dividend, or the number on the outside, is it's a linear factor. So what do I mean by that? So let's say that we took x cubed plus 4x squared minus 5x plus 5, and we want to divide that. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in here because we're not actually going to use this, by x minus 3. So if we wanted to do this, we could do this the long division way, and you can by all means go ahead and do this to make sure that it works out. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the coefficients of each one of these terms under here. So technically there's a 1 sitting out in front of there. There's a 4 here, a negative 5 there, and a 5 there. I'm going to write those right here. 1, 4, negative 5, and 5. And then what I'm going to divide that by is the x minus 3. So what you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what would I plug into that x on the outside here to make what's on the outside 0? And of course that would be 3. It's basically the solution to x minus 3. Well, that would be a 3. So I'm going to put 3 in a little box over here on the side. And this is the process. This is actually pretty easy to do. And again, this is really just a shortcut of doing what we did before. The first thing you do is you bring down the first number. So we're going to bring down that 1. It's the first coefficient. Then what you do is you multiply the 3 times the 1, and you place that here. And then we add the 4 and the 3, and we get 7. Then we multiply the 3 times the 7, and we place that here. Then we add the negative 5 and the 21, and we get 16. And then we multiply the 3 times the 16, which is 48. And then you add the 48 and the 5, and we get 53. So what we have here, and I'm going to erase these lines real quick here. So what we have, there we go, is the polynomial that you would get if you were to do the long division. This is the key. This last number, this 53, this is your remainder. This one right here, the 16, is your constant term. So that's your remainder. This is the constant. This one here is the coefficient of your x, and this one is the coefficient of your x squared. So the solution to this division problem is going to be 1x squared, or just x squared, plus 7x plus 16, and then the remainder is 53 over the original amount, x minus 3. Again, that is what's called synthetic division. If you really didn't catch all that the first time, please by all means go back and watch it again. It's not really that difficult to do. So I'm going to do one more problem using synthetic division just to show that, and then we'll be done with the lesson. Alright, so the last problem that we're going to do here, again, we're just going to use synthetic division. So we are going to take and we're going to divide, this will be our last example, we are going to divide 5x cubed plus 6x plus 8 by x plus 2. And again, in order to do this, what we have to be dividing by, this has to be linear, and it is. It's got a highest exponent of 1, so it is linear. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the leading coefficients and we're going to write those in a line. Now here's the one important thing that we didn't do in the previous problem. When we write these, you must include a placeholder for every variable that's not there. So I have a 5 in front of my x cubed. No problem there. I don't have an x squared term. There's no x squared term written there. So technically that means that there are 0 x squared terms. So I must include a 0 there as a placeholder. That doesn't look good. There's a 0. Then I can move on to my x term, which is 6, and then I can move on to my 8. And then what goes in my little box on the outside here is going to be it's the solution to this one if I were to set that equal to 0, which would be -2. Best way to think about that is just remember it's going to be the opposite of whatever the sign is. Again, it's just like setting it equal to 0. All right. Then we just follow our little pattern here. Very simple to do. Bring down the first number, which is 5. Multiply what's in your box times that number, which is going to be -10. Write it here. Add the two numbers together vertically. That gives us -10. Multiply the -2 now times the new -10, which is 20. Place that there. Add the two numbers vertically, 26. Multiply -2 times 26, and we get -52. And then you're going to add the -52 and the 8, and we're going to get -44, I believe. That looks right. So that's going to be our remainder. So what you have, this is your remainder, this is your constant, this is the coefficient of your x, this is the coefficient of your x squared. So what we get is 5x squared minus 10x plus 26 plus -44 over the original dividend, which is x plus 2. And again, that's just a shortcut that you can use. You do not need to use this message if you don't want to, but you certainly can if you prefer to do the other long division. It works for anything.